Hello, everybody, and welcome back. And we have somewhat breaking news a little bit after the fact. I'm sure most people already know what's been taking place during I guess you'd say at the onset of the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. But we do know that Donald Trump has been shot. He has survived. Apparently, it seems a bullet grazed his ear, was probably a few millimeters away from instant death. And it's definitely scary to see such a thing happen. We haven't seen anything of this sort happen since Ronald Reagan was shot back in the 1980s. Obviously, you had the JFK, RFK shootings in the 60s, George Wallace when he was running for president in 1972. But this is just something that really is inexcusable. When you talk about the fact that you allow, if you are on the other side of the political aisle, which they have done, just this nonsensical fear-mongering to escalate and escalate and escalate because they're losing, you see what happens. You have crazy people everywhere, and many do exist on the left. The media will pretend as if they don't exist. And while we don't know every single detail about the shooter, it does seem as if there's been reports that he was Antifa, then there was some other reports. I don't really want to jump to conclusions until we know the full verifiable facts, but the shooter apparently is dead. At least one other individual has been shot in the crowd that passed away. And it seems like another person may have been injured, possibly in critical condition. There's so much that we don't know. We're learning more and more about this story as it develops. But when you talk about this, it's like you have a president that gets shot. That's not something that's happened in the past 33 years. You could say he's not a sitting president. He's a former president. It doesn't matter. He's probably going to be the future president. And the odds of that only likely go up after today. He apparently is surviving. And some of the pictures, like just talking about when it was unfolding and looking at these pictures, just him just turning to the crowd. I think he wanted to finish his speech. I mean, you saw Teddy Roosevelt did it back in the day. Times have definitely changed, but I think he wanted to finish his speech. He looked back at the crowd and he was like trying to find his shoes and everything like that. And he was just like standing up there and he was pumping his fist. He was a warrior. This is warrior stuff. I mean, it's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And now there's reports he's going to go to the UFC fight tonight. He's not slowing down. You know, this is happening right before the RNC, which is a big momentum boost for him, possibly with the election. But this is so much bigger than that. You have somebody out there. He's just a warrior. He just stands up there. He took a bullet to near his brain, near his temple that would have ended his life, and he is unfazed, comparatively speaking, by it. Politics aside, he's just a very impressive human being. There's no other way to spin it. He's an impressive human being. And that's what it shows. And it does seem as if every single possible thing that they try to do to him, shooter somehow is able to get within a vantage point of him, which is unacceptable. He was on a roof. It wasn't like he found a way into the rally. Secret Service should have done a much better job. But you have somebody that takes 10 shots at him. It does hit his ear, but he still happened to survive, is unfazed, walks away from it. And it's surreal to me. It's surreal. It's a little bit deeper than politics because these moments are personal. Although it doesn't matter for some people, like the current quote-unquote president who took how long exactly to put out a statement that was definitely not his statement. But why would you sit there, a written statement? It takes you how long? Almost 2 hours. 2 hours to put out any sort of statement, the most vague statement possible, which, I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot he can say positive. There's not a lot he could say, period. But it's like, this is the same guy. During Trump's presidency, all acts of violence that are happening under your watch, whether you're decrying them or not, and your blood is on your hands. But apparently for Biden, it doesn't matter. Biden, the same guy who is rambling about his political opponent being a threat to democracy, threat to whatever, dictator, all these words, making him the worst guy ever. And then not only does he get shot, he's relatively unfazed, it seems. He survived it, but still a president possibly getting shot. And then also you have other people in the crowd, rally goers. We don't even know what the other people were, if they were employees or what the deal is, but I'm presuming that they were rally goers. These people get shot. At a very minimum, their lives were at risk. This is a major problem. This does not infuriate you. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It's shocking. It was earth-shattering. I was editing a video when I looked at Twitter and I got replies and I'm like, wait, that can't be right. And then I look at YouTube, I look at the feed because I was pausing Trump's rally, was going to go back and watch it on 2x speed. Apparently there's not really a lot to go back and watch because early on in the rally, we saw what happened and it's just, that's painful. And it was real. And I was like, what's going on? You start to shake a little bit. It's like, this can't possibly be happening. And then it is actually happening. But they're just, you look at what's happening. They're just throwing everything they can at them. They can't beat them regardless. And then this is up next. And I'm not saying that this guy's involved with any sort of campaign or what it is. It seems to be, could just be a nut job lone wolf who's inspired by some of the rhetoric of the campaign. But the bottom line is that this is literally all they have. I mean, at this stage in the game electorally, they're getting completely screwed. They have nothing. And you see this and it's just like, yeah, this is scary. And maybe in terms of my rhetoric surrounding the whole VP pick about it's not assassination insurance might not be the biggest deal. Well, it is a big deal. It's a bigger deal than we thought. I thought Secret Service would have done their job better. And obviously, if you're president, you probably have extra protections. But still, it is something to consider. It is something of concern because impeachment is that's a little bit different because you're not going to have 20 Republican senators vote to impeach Trump. Their career and livelihoods would end. At least in politics, and I don't think that they'd like to do that. So this is literally what they got. Now, who knows the full story behind it? We're still learning things as minutes pass by on the clock. But it's shocking. It will shock you as much as the conviction, the indictments, the mugshot, everything over the past year to 2 years even, the election in 2020, everything that they've thrown at this guy, it's been shocking to a degree, but this is definitely on an entirely different level. Whether you want to say this guy is, whoever was behind this was involved or not with it doesn't seem like he was involved with the campaign, but who knows? We find things out later on, but as of now, going off of what we know, you just have a campaign that's been very, I wouldn't even say negative, but it's been just objectively lying. It's not like they're telling the truth about something. It's not like they're telling the truth, though Trump is going to do this, that, and the other thing. They're lying to their followers. They're becoming deranged conspiracists to their followers. And then they're making their followers deranged conspiracists. And then that's what they're doing while claiming that we're the problem. The right's the problem. I don't want to hear about January 6th ever again. January 6th, you had one person that was killed, and it was a Trump supporter by a Capitol Police officer. You had a couple people have medical episodes, which is pretty common in a group full of a couple 100,000 people. But the autopsies have showed that's not because of protesters or anything of the sort that caused it. Bottom line. So this is different. You have a politically motivated act of violence against a former and probably future president of the United States that's coming from the left. And we see this all the time with the left. They talk about the right. They talk about the incidences on the right. The incidences on the left get swept up. Hard to sweep something like this up. They swept up Waukesha. They swept up whatever happened in, I think it was Nashville or wherever it was. They can't exactly sweep this up. Happened in Pennsylvania. Now, the left, you have people saying that it's staged, apparently, which is not true because you have the county executive. You have many people saying that it caused people to die. The shooter is real and dead. And then Trump was verified to have been hit with a bullet wound in his ear very close to his temple. So they just deny it off of instinct because they just hate Donald Trump so much. And this is what happens. This is what happens. I don't want to hear about 1/6. I don't want to hear about anything ever again, because this is a much more serious problem other than, some people are in a building and maybe they trespassed or something, or were let in by some bad actors who didn't get sentences, which is another thing, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not here to talk about 1/6. I don't want to hear about 1/6. What I do want to talk about is just the fact that this is a bone-chilling moment in American politics, and we're not even to the conventions, and we're seeing all this crazy stuff happen, but this tops it all. But you talk about Biden's rhetoric, I mean, like, they would tie Trump to everything that he would say. He just saying, go to the Capitol, but he said peacefully and patriotically, and those are key words they omit, they leave out. But Joe Biden saying 5 days ago, we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a, quote, he said bullseye is the word, which if you just look and see what happened, that's exactly what this individual tried to do. Now, were they inspired by the direct quote? I don't know. I'm not somebody who fully has all the facts, because nobody has all the facts right now. But you talk about rhetoric. You're just drumming up Trump to be this evil dictator who must be stopped at all costs, and we have to lie about it just so we can maintain power. Yeah, I mean, there is some correlation to this. This guy that did this apparently filmed a video beforehand saying justice will be served. Apparently, the only justice that was served was him getting sniped out by a sniper that was overlooking the Trump rally, just in case some BS like this was taking place, and it did take place. But still, the fact that you have a lack of security, that is also a problem. It's a major problem, because you have people that are getting in positions to do things like this, and that's just wrong. It's completely wrong that that's even allowed. You have to account for everything. This is a new era of a country as a whole. We have a mentally sick society. We see mass shootings all the time. You see a lot of things, and that's apparently what this is. It just was not executed very poorly, and he was aiming for President Trump, and it does seem, injure and or kill. At least one other person is dead, and then another person seems to be as well injured or dead. So either way, the shooting suspect is dead. And you see what's going on right now. We're just refreshing some of the headlines over at Breitbart, because they've been reporting on it pretty quickly. Trump holding his fist up in defiance. Apparently the words he said were fight, fight, fight. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's a fighter. I've never seen anything like this. What they do to him, and just how he responds is incredible and admirable. By every stretch of the term, it's admirable. Every stretch of the term. So we'll get to Super Chats as well. I want to see what some of you guys have to say about this, because this is definitely huge. Also, you don't have to send me super. Send Trump. Send Trump as much as you can as well. We want to make sure that we rally behind him. Send a strong financial showing heading into the RNC, which in and of itself will be a strong financial showing. But you have a lot of things going on. It's causing a lot of people to rally behind Trump. It was reported that Elon Musk was donating to Trump behind the scenes, and he officially came out and endorsed Donald Trump on his Twitter. Finally, I predicted he would do that. He did. He says, I fully endorse President Trump. There were rumors that he would endorse RFK Jr. or somebody of that designation. But no, he's endorsed Donald Trump, and apparently he's talking about, or he quoted some of the Biden donors behind the scenes were joking about something like this happening. Reid Hoffman, one of the major donors to Biden, and also a donor to Nikki Haley in the primary as well, but not like that matters. But he said that he wishes that they made him he said, quote unquote, actual martyr. Well, this was recent. He was debating with Peter Thiel, who was in favor of Donald Trump, a former friend of this guy. And this is a quote that was allegedly said, according to Thiel. And yeah, you see what's going on. There is this war in the big tech world, but Elon Musk is definitely on the Trump train. Like Musk or don't like Musk, you have a big power player that is just because of this. So all they're doing is they're causing people to rally behind Trump. They're not causing people to, why would they rally against him after something like this happens? I mean, let's be completely honest here. This is ridiculous. This is insane. And it is a result of their, in part, rhetoric. It is a result of their rhetoric. And you look at what CNN, the headlines, they're saying, Trump falls down at rally. That's literally what these people are saying. The media's credibility has been shot to nothing, shot to zero. And the more that they do stuff like this when everybody's watching, the more credibility that they continue to lose. I mean, it's not working out for these people right now. And Donald Trump almost just offed in front of thousands of his own supporters. You know, they failed, but it's only somehow making him already stronger. And he's apparently fine. He's walking off. He's in the hospital. It seems like they're evaluating him, what's going on for sure, because, you know, you don't know how some of these things go, infections, things like that. Who knows what could possibly happen down the line, but apparently he is in a stable condition as of now, as things stand today. So that is a good thing for Donald Trump, that he's stable. Encourage people to pray, keep praying for Donald Trump as well. And you know, you have a lot of people, they try to remove Trump's Secret Service protections. Yeah, these are the people. The left tried to remove his protections due to his conviction. And look what's going on right now. Even with his protections, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. These people are evil. They want Trump gone because, again, he is standing in the way. He's right. He's just standing in the way. That has to do with a lot of this. So we'll get to super chats as well, because we'll see what you guys say. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel as well, and make sure that you guys donate to Donald Trump's campaign if you can, because this is a big, big disaster, and we want to rally behind Donald Trump. It's a developing story for sure. But you talk about Biden, you talk about the rhetoric, you talk about everything. Biden's statement being leaked. I have been briefed on the shooting. Well, how long did it take to brief the guy if this is like right after? Almost 2 hours, over like 100 minutes after the incident takes place, he releases a statement, not from his personal account, but his presidential account that probably wasn't written by him, and it's not like his personal account's tweets are either. But he's like, I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for those who are at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it. Like I said, the same guy has been saying, in the past, 2020, said Trump owns all the violence under his watch. Does Biden own all the violence under his watch? That's a very important question, especially because this is political violence that was directed at his number one political opponent, and a political opponent that's in a very, very good and strong political position to defeat him and end his career as we know it, as it stands today. I mean, these are serious things to consider. Now, Donald Trump, as it stands right now, we talk about how the betting markets are reacting to this is another thing. And it's definitely more than about electoral politics. But the fact is, Pennsylvania, he was at 57. Now he went up to 70. Michigan, he's at 58. Wisconsin, he went up in the 60s. Everywhere it seems like he gained support, not losing support. Usually you think if somebody gets shot at, the markets might move into the, this guy might, die or something. Who knows? But that didn't seemingly happen. Trump is now grown in his support to be the favorite. But this is far bigger than electoral politics, as we know. But we have a lot of people in chat. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says they just secured a landslide victory for Trump. We really need to keep him in our prayers. I know this is a political channel, but I would not be offended if you paused to say a prayer for him. I did pray instantly right after it happened, actually. And I would encourage people to continuously pray. I don't know if I'm, going to lead the entire chat in prayer, but, it is important that we are praying for President Donald J. Trump Also, with the amount of shots, I think there have been more than one culprit. Well, I mean, it's not, apparently, you know, if you have 10 shots, it could be from one individual. I don't know if there's more than one culprit. We'll have to find out and see what happens. Also, he says, I'm not worried. I'm actually quite calm. God has it in his plan for him to get in office. Trump will be safe. Worry, no. Pray, yes. I agree. And when it comes down to it all, the fact that he's okay is like the major takeaway, because if he was not okay, it'd be a lot more, worried. We'd be a lot more worried. It'd be a lot more worrisome for sure. But I mean, like Biden, especially, just 2 hours. This guy was upset about Trump for waiting 2 hours for, saying anything about 1-6 when he was like in a motorcade trying to get back to the White House for like an hour or so. Like, let's be real here. Let's be real. Brandon Sikora says, forget politics. We need God more than ever. Exactly. You have a lot of people, we live in a godless society. That's why you have these events, mass shootings. Of course, we've had shootings before, assassination attempts on McKinley, Lincoln, even, JFK, you could say in 1960, but like these mass shooting things especially, and more political violence hasn't really taken place until like recently. You had, no such thing as like a school shooting until the 1980s. You had people in the 50s and 60s, they would bring their guns to high school for archery classes and things like that. And you don't have a moral society. You don't have God in the society. Of course, people will say, well, what about Japan? They don't have it either. They'll try to blame guns, but it's far deeper than that because A, when we had the guns, we didn't have this problem. And B, in regards to Japan, they have a strong societal fabric. We don't exactly have that here, which has kind of led to a lot of deterioration as well. But it is a lack of God problem in many ways. You remove God from the public sphere, it's a problem. That's why you even have like all these prominent agnostics and atheists that will come forward nowadays and say that they are culturally Christian because they believe that we need God and Christ back in the public sphere because it would benefit society, and it would be a common cause of agreement. We don't have that anymore. Anthony Perez for $50 says the Rubicon is crossed. There's no coming back for the Dems landslide incoming. Yeah, I mean, that's probably why they look and they see this and they're like, oh, how do we like react to it for political purposes? And it's like, it takes them an hour and a half for like 20 people to craft a statement while Biden's asleep, sleeping something off, because that's exactly what it is. Punch a Bunch Bear says Harry Sisna's blood on his hands. Well, yeah, I mean, it's deeper than that, but he's just a tool of the regime. I don't necessarily blame him. He's a fool, but he gets paid to parrot talking points for the regime. It's mainly the regime's fault. And it's funny because if you replace the word whenever Biden says threat to democracy, threat to our democracy, whatever you want to call it, replace that with regime, doesn't exactly sound so good, does it? But it's honestly more honest that way because that's exactly what it is. The American people want Trump. They want Trump back in the White House. So now you have to, we're gonna fortify democracy against itself. Okay, interesting. But that's kind of what we've been led down the path to. Jared the American says this is like Roosevelt, Wallace, and Reagan pray. Well, Trump, like he was shot in the head and he's apparently, it's seemingly fine. That's huge. That's incredible. It's just the way that things have unfolded. It's only Trump. Very few people could have been put in this situation and would be in the same way. I mean, let's be real. He is a warrior. And that's not just from a political perspective, just from an individual perspective. Everything they put him through, and he knows that if he runs again in 2024, that he's going to be in all these legal battles, and he's going to be back in the spotlight. They're going to drag his name through the mud, whatever. But no, he stays and he fights. And as a result, I think that spirit is going to lead him to victory, not just in the election, but hopefully our country back to victory as well, because we need somebody who's strong. It's not somebody who, falls up the stairs. I mean, somebody that can just take a near-death experience and just throw his fists up in the air and say, fight, fight, fight. I mean, that is incredible. It doesn't. There's very few people like this. There's very few people like this on the face of the earth. It is incredible. Mike Oxarts is a quarter inch from Sea War 2. Tommy Leah for 10 says, this is a tragedy. People are dead and injured. A president being shot a fraction of an inch, a fraction of a second, and he would have been dead. Make sure to donate to Trump. Pray for him and others. Exactly, because it's not just Trump. You have several people in the audience that were reportedly shot as well. And those people, they won't be able to come back. Trump might be able to come back from this, but those people may not be able to come back from this just because some weasel out there has some, deranged hatred for the greatest president of their lifetimes, probably, objectively speaking. Orange Space Monkey says, this is the left. Blame the left-wing media for spreading the hate towards Trump. They are exactly implicated in it. And their reaction to it has also implicated them further, trying to say that, we don't know what the motive is. You know what the motive is. You do. It's obvious. They shot at Trump. Obviously, at first it's like, okay, maybe there's like a firework or something because it did kind of sound like it. But no, this was real. And now you have people in the crowd that will not be able to get their lives back. Donald Trump will likely be just fine. His chances probably go up at being president because of this. But the other people in the crowd, they don't get to come back from this. And is that really something that, needs to be glossed over? No, it's not. It's a big problem, and the media and all these people are implicated. Mike M says the MAGA movement needs to stick together right now. Thanks for the live stream. Well, thank you for the super chat. And I agree. I mean, I think that you've seen the right united a lot after his conviction, but after this, I think it's even further. It's all just backfiring. You have all sorts of people coming to Trump's defense, and it's Biden's campaign suspended TV advertising, which I think is the right move politically. I don't know if that happened during when Trump got COVID back in 2020 or not, but that is the right move for them to do, objectively speaking. It's not like it takes away the fact that it took them how long to respond, and then everybody gets the okay. Biden tweets it right as Obama tweets it, right as all these other people tweet it. That kind of tells you that this is some coordinated sort of thing where all these people waited, 2 hours before they were allowed to say anything because they had to get the go-ahead first. I mean, at least the governor, Josh Shapiro, was one of the first people said this violence has no place in Pennsylvania. That's the right thing to say. Obviously, a lot of disagreements with Josh Shapiro, but, I mean, he was right. And he did it at the right time. But these other people, no, they're waiting how long? And it's obviously a vague statement. That's all they can do, because what do they want to, they can't sensationalize it too much for their own base purposes. Otherwise, it's also like, wait, if this is really what you feel about it, why did it take this long if they come out and they're too overdramatic? So there's that. But it is what it is. M says, I firmly believe that Trump surviving's divine intervention. God's with Trump. There's no way he can lose. Well, you might be right. Some people get mad when people say, well, God is on his side or he's doing God's work or whatever. First of all, God doesn't always send his, the most devout religious people to do his work. First of all. Second of all, it is true that the amount of things that this guy's been put through the ringer for, and the fact that he always is coming out on top and stronger than ever, I think that you have to say that it is very likely that God is on his side. I mean, there's no other way to chalk it up. Tom Addo for 10 says James Hodgkinson shot Steve Scalise because the liberal media convinced him that Trump and the GOP were a threat to our democracy. Remember, the left wants all of us dead. Trump is just in their way. Well, Trump is given the right new life. Before Trump came along, they had nobody. They had no energy. They were getting rolled over. All they could do is complain. They could win in low turnout midterm elections, but that was pretty much about it. Trump came along and he ignited a new, life into the Republican Party the likes that we have never seen before. And a lot of people want to push him to the side and get him out and get his movement out. I think those people, we've battled them for a better part of the past 4 years about this, but they're wrong. And Donald Trump, he is in a very, very strong position as it stands today. So the moderators are putting the donation links in chat for Donald Trump. Make sure you guys donate to Trump as well. Stephen Knizik says, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you fully understand that I've just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. Teddy Roosevelt, 1912. Well, Teddy Roosevelt, some people will say that he's one of the greatest presidents ever. Some people will say that he's overrated, and I understand both arguments, but the one thing I will say is that the man was a hell of a guy, and he had a lot of aura to him. And Donald Trump fits that same bill. And that's partially why he was put on Mount Rushmore, was because he was so iconic. And Donald Trump is, the definition of iconic. You can't really think of an iconic president that we've had in recent memory that's as iconic as Trump. Obama was like that guy to the left. Reagan was iconic and still is to a lot of people on the right. But Trump is on another level with the memes, with everything. Like, he's taking it, and just all he's been through. I mean, if he becomes president again, that's on a whole different level. I mean, you're talking about Grover Cleveland. The only reason why anybody knows who Grover Cleveland is because he served 2 non-contiguous terms. Add that to Trump's repertoire. That's incredible, especially for a one-term president to be as iconic as Trump is today is nothing short of incredible. Apex Caliber says Trump just won New Jersey, New York, Virginia, Maine, Minnesota, New Mexico. Well, look, let's take it one step at a time. I'm not going to sit here and say that I can determine the electoral prospects of it. I think Trump probably gets a boost because of it, just because he was already going to get a boost. It's momentum, whatever. And, the left is basically, they can't overplay their hand as much without suffering the consequences. But that being said, I don't know what's going to happen. The news moves very quickly. It does. And while it does seem as if this probably helps Trump's chances, I don't know if that's something that I fully want to go into in depth about right now, just because of the what's going on in the country. Orange Space Monkey says, remember when Maxine Waters called in harassing the Trump cabinet? I do. F her. Well, she's been irrelevant for a while, but it is true that all of these politicians over the years have said a lot of things that have resulted in such actions, and they get away with it. But Trump, they'll have to take his words out of context to get him to say something that was, I guess you would say, that they could tie to 1-6 or whatever. He's been indicted because they twist his words. Biden won't get indicted for this. Technically, if Donald Trump said something about Biden with a bullseye, or even the bloodbath thing they take out of context, but if Trump said that and the same thing happened to Biden, well, you would exactly see what would happen. Someone said Trump released a statement to Truth Social. Well, I'll read the statement on Truth Social. We could pull it up. We'll find out what Donald Trump has said. And if I get it pulled up here, let's see. But in the meantime, Sir Thanks a Lot says Trump is defiant. Trump 2024. Let me see. I'm trying to get Trump's. It says network failed. I don't know if it's on my end or what the deal is, but I'm sure it's on Twitter somewhere. But W King for 10 says Patriots activated. Evil fails once again. And we'll pull up the Trump statement. We'll pull up the Trump statement right here. We've got it. We've got access to it. He says, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response in the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at the time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong, that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. That is from Donald Trump. And of course, he says, most importantly, extending condolences to the family. Just a good statement overall. And he didn't exactly make everything about, himself, even though he arguably had every right to, given the fact that he was just shot. But yeah, he is a warrior. He is a warrior. Bomani Igloo says the last thing the shooter sees before death rattling is Trump fist pumping. Yeah, exactly. That is a good point. That is true. Trevor Hint says, I just want to see how the mainstream media spins us to put all the blame on Trump. I don't know if they really can. They're in a tough spot. They're just trying to sweep it up. Tom Dill says, we're living in a Brad Thor Jack Carr novel. Scott B says, threat to our democracy equals threat to their bureaucracy. Bingo. M says, hopefully those bullets weren't, I'll use the term laced, but I don't believe that they were. I mean, he's in the hospital. They can analyze that stuff pretty quickly. Telus Bound says, God bless you. May the Theotokos protect America. It's Cool Guy Rice says, have you seen the BBC interview? I have not. Thermidor 404 for 10 says, like he said during the debate, he could have been relaxing somewhere. Instead, chose to fight for us. He took a shot for us. Let's all make sure to go out and vote for him. Exactly. If you don't vote and if you don't get involved at this point, I don't know what to tell you, because, the country's on the line. You see what they're doing. And that should really just, it should make you angry and should make you emboldened to not do what these people do, but to get out and vote and make sure that we can get as many people voting as possible. Trump is making himself an icon in real time, which is good, and definitely it's come at a lot of costs, but we need to get him in the White House, period. We can't let this continue. You can't let this nonsense continue. You just need to make sure that you play a part in it and play the good part and get Trump where he needs to be. Sven Olsen says, God used Jehu to purge Israel of Baal worship. God does not always use good moral men to do his work. Sir Thanks a Lot says, Trump is to American politics as Napoleon is to France. Macintosh 1581 says the GOP was literally on life support after Bush's presidency. Hillary would be finishing her second term right now had Trump not come in and given the GOP new life. Exactly. I tend to believe that, without Trump as the nominee, probably end up with Jeb Bush again or somebody like that. And that's not exactly where we need to be as a party, where we need to go. We need to actually do something that can save this country, not mess around with this uniparty nonsense like the GOP was doing and desperately wants to do again. So, yeah, I mean, it's 100% real. Without Trump, you wouldn't have the Republican Party being as strong as it is today. They say he's ruined it, but no, it would probably be weaker and weaker for sure. You had a lot of seats that were lost under the Obama years and under the Democrats, and that's the way it goes. Nobody on the left is blaming him for it or saying we need to purge Obama from the Democrat Party. He's a very powerful power player in the Democrat Party, and that's the way it is. There are issues with elections, turnout, and stuff that we need to deal with, but that's not really a problem when Trump is on the ballot. Same thing with the Democrats with Obama in the Obama years. Sir Thanks a Lot says Biden tweeted he wants to ban rifles before this. I saw that, and it's like at the end of the day, banning certain things is not going to stop them from being in existence. And if it wasn't that weapon, likely would have been a different weapon and possibly a more deadly weapon. And if you take rifles out of the equation, that shooter could have done a hell of a lot more damage because he was taken down by security. He was taken down by a rifle, plain and simple. And it doesn't even seem like he was using, and I could be wrong, probably it wasn't an AR-15 or whatever, but we don't have to get in the gun control arguments about it. We could do that some other time if it ever comes up. But there's plenty of things that are wrong with gun control and fallacious with gun control, as we know. It's a people problem. It's a people problem. And you see that unfold. You have somebody who said something about justice serving, and then boom, look what happens. And the only justice served was his rightful death by the sniper guy at the top of from the Secret Service at the top of the rally place. So everyone's saying it was a .22 long rifle, which again, long rifles are not the type of weapons that Biden wants to ban, ironically enough. But, it could have been a handgun. Would you want to ban all guns? Yeah, see how well that goes out for you electorally. Not too well. But does seem to be a rifle. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, it would have been with something else. And if it would have been, another type of weapon, if it wasn't just a gun of sorts. So the gun control arguments are stupid. I don't want to hear those arguments, but that's not really the main takeaway here. Let's see. Either way, kind of curious to see what other people are saying about this as well. We'll look in regular chat. We did read all the super chats that we have to date. If you guys want to send in super chats, feel free. I'm not going to hold you to it. I think donating to Donald Trump is probably more important than donating to the show. And if you do donate to the show and you can afford to send that donation to Trump, I encourage you to do it because he needs what he can get. I mean, you talk about this election being consequential. You can't let if you don't vote, you're letting them get away with this. You're letting them get away with this type of behavior. And we cannot allow that to happen. You're letting them get away with the indictments. You're letting everything, literally everything. That's a problem. So, let's see. Witnesses are saying something differently. Trump's attending UFC. Yeah, Trump is allegedly attending UFC from what I saw. He's still going out there. He's going out there. He is not going to be demoralized. But it's, you have people in the crowd that were shot too, and that's egregious. And this is just, it's the way politics is headed. It's not good. But I don't know. I just really feel as if I can't get over the fact that you allowed a shooter to even get within striking distance, given like the area around it. You need to be making sure that this stuff doesn't happen if you are the Secret Service, and it's up to them to do their job. And I'm not saying that they didn't, do anything correctly. I'm just saying that the fact that they allowed this or didn't account for it is insane. It's insane. Andrew Mortensen says, I'm voting for the felon. You shoot my guy. He stands taller than ever. Screw you liberals. MAGA. Sir, thanks a lot. Says, watch what we say. FBI will be looking for... well, exactly. I agree. Anybody who tries to react to this in a similar manner is doing everybody in the nation a massive disservice. Must be stopped. I understand there's a thing about emotions, but any just sensationalized rhetoric that could be used against you, don't engage in it. Don't do it. We're gonna do this at the ballot box. This is Biden once. He said, we settle our grievances peaceably at the battle box. It's the ballot box. It is a battle, but it's a battle at the ballot box. All right, let's see. Spartan Speedrun says, Biden said recently something like Trump is going to be hit with something he's never faced before, and people were saying, threat question mark, do you remember that? Yeah, honestly, if you're Biden, it's like your defense is, well, I didn't incite anything. It's not my fault because I'm senile, because he is. And that unironically is probably his best defense for it. I mean, he doesn't know what the hell happened. He probably is still sleeping. Robert Lane says you should hear about the comments made at Silicon Valley by the man that paid Eugene Carroll's attorney fees. Well, we just covered that. And notice how the more Biden's losing, the more he's going into stuff like Trump is he's a convicted sexual rapist, which isn't even true. But it doesn't matter. You have a crazy individual who makes up stories that were mirroring the plot of one of her favorite episodes of her favorite TV show and uses it against Trump when it's convenient 25, 30 years later. And apparently, she can sue him for saying that she's crazy. But now it seems like the immunity clause might be able to chip away at that, which is also something. But who knows? Who knows? Either way, we have more super chats. BRGRS is what a sad day for the country. Where do I go to donate to Trump directly without it going through the RNC? Well, first of all, the RNC is improved. I'm not going to tell you that you have to like them, but it's not the old RNC. But second of all, I would just suggest doing it on his website. If some of the money, a little bit of it ends up going to the RNC, it all goes to the same place. The RNC's prioritized spending money to just help Trump this cycle, which is smart because every down ballot race benefits from Trump gaining as well. Murky Fitness, thank you. Andrew Mortensen says that Donald Trump pic with the fist in the air, bloodied up in front of the flag, is the greatest American picture of all time. Base. Yeah, that deserves to be framed somewhere. I mean, this is a warrior right here. He was just shot. And honestly, he probably wanted to continue the speech. Reddit's like, well, Teddy Roosevelt would have continued the speech. It's like these people are deranged. The same people that said it was staged. It's not staged. People are dead. People are shot, wounded. It's not a BB gun at that point. Someone in chat says, check Polymarket. Well, I don't believe that. Oh, he's at 70. He went down in Pennsylvania, but he went up everywhere else. It went down by 1 cent. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at a election that's looking more likely for Trump to win, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this country is in a very good place as it stands today. They just shot the former and future president. That's insane. Sir thanks a lot says Democrats have been saying presidents can redact after Supreme Court ruling. I've been seeing a lot of calls on Reddit. Well, they also do play part of the blame. I mean, you couldn't say 30, 40 years ago, doesn't matter who the president is, what your political position is, you couldn't say anything about the president in any way, shape, or form in that regard. You can criticize the president, but even back then, you couldn't even disrespect the president. Now it's on a whole nother level. Now, honestly, certain presidents, you could argue, don't deserve respect in certain regards, but as a human being, you can't say some of these things that they've been saying. And the more that they say it, the more that these crazy things happen, whether if it's just Biden or whoever people want to blame for rhetoric, the media or not. It's a lot of different things. I think that Biden probably isn't even in the main, top 3 people to blame for this. Media, definitely the Democrats at large and the way they've been behaving. And, Biden doesn't have an opinion of his own. It's the same guy who rambles about how on teleprompter Trump will end democracy, but then when he's asked by the media how he'll feel if he stays in the race but loses to Trump, and he's like, oh, if I give it my all, it's okay. It's like, well, if you really think Trump is this threat, then you wouldn't probably be saying that off the cuff. So again, Biden is not a good guy. I'm just saying that there's plenty of other people that are to blame as well, and that Biden doesn't really have any agency over anything that he says or does at this stage in the game. He's a puppet, he's a figurehead, and his policy sucks, and he's brain dead, and he's not running the country, and it's a bunch of crazy people. So, Texas Scratchman says, what's happening feels almost divine at this point. Trump survived for a reason. Historic win, possibly greater than a Reagan-sized landslide. Well, I don't know if I could go that far, but I can say that he's very well gonna win this thing at this stage in the game. The video maker 2341 is praying for President Trump, as well as I'm doing the same thing. Murky Fitness as witness tried to warn us for a 2M shooter with rifle. Well, Brandon Romero says, after today's events, do you think liberal media will turn this into a push for more gun control? Oh, probably. I mean, they're going to have to find some way to do it, and that's probably their best strategy. But again, it's not the gun that did it. It's a person that did it. Guns exist. Guns have existed in the highest numbers in this country. We didn't have this. JM for one. Apparently I missed a super chat. I did. Did I? I think we got them all, unless somebody wants to tell me who sent the super chat that I missed. But, hold on. Oh, yeah, Base Cat. We missed one from Base Cat saying, what was the electoral map after the Reagan shooting? It was in like the first year of his presidency, I think. So I don't exactly know what the map was like. Reagan went up and down and up and down, and eventually he won in a landslide. So I think it's an entirely different thing to look at. The video maker 2341 says, you think Trump can get at least 350 electoral votes now? That would be on the high end. We have to wait for the RNC. We have to wait to see how polls move. We still have a long way to go. And while this definitely doesn't hurt him, I can't exactly say if it's going to guarantee his victory, although it does seem like it might give him some sympathy. He didn't get sympathy when he got COVID, though. So who knows? But I think that this is a little bit different than you get COVID versus you get a bullet grazed to your ear by some presumably a member of the far left, it seems, from some reports we saw. Obviously, it has to be politically motivated. There's no other way it wouldn't be politically motivated. Guy got on the roof, specifically targeted Trump. He didn't target, just some random person. There's no way. It had to be politically motivated. You have to be insane not to say it. You talk about you don't want to say certain things until you get the facts right, and that's all true. But I don't know what other way to spin it. That's just the way it is. Unless you want to say somebody's seeking attention, which, I mean, still, you could say mental illness, and it is mental illness, but that's still beside the point. Mental illness plus other things. There's a lot of mentally ill people. What's the motivation here? JM says Trump was being strategic to allow the media cycle on Biden to continue. Now the event puts the focus back on Trump. Coincidence? But it doesn't put the focus back on Trump negatively, but Trump was already going to get the focus back on him regardless come Monday. He's announcing his VP pick. He's, doing his RNC. You're going to have back-to-back wall-to-wall coverage that's going to be positive for Trump. Spike says Trump possibly shot in a vest, saw a pic on Twitter. Well, I don't know what took place. I don't know what's... haven't heard any of those reports. I'm just kind of refreshing to see if we've got any sort of new information. But yeah, there's a picture of a bullet midair that was captured, which this is also insane. I could pull this up too. They caught the bullet midair, which it's what it appears to look like. And this is, wow. See, that one little turn, if he turned his head, that's scary. That's incredibly scary. You turn your head a little bit, you're done. I mean, it's over. That's insane. That's insane. But yeah, I mean, they got to up their security for sure, regardless of what happens. Thermidor 404 says, sending prayers for the once and future president from Virginia. I hope he wins my state after this. God bless America. Well, hopefully he deserves to win every state. Everything they've put him through over the past how many years. This is just insanity. Everyone's talking about the VP impact, and it is something to consider. I admit I was wrong. I said, they increased security. It's unlikely that it would be anything that he'd have to worry about. But no, I disagree. I think it is something you have to worry about now, to the extent of if he picks somebody, this thing could happen. If it's happening before he even makes his selection, So I don't necessarily think that it would even make the biggest difference in the world. Whoever they put in there, there's only one Donald Trump. He doesn't have a successor. He does, some people like Vivek, they like JD Vance. Neither of them are Trump. They might have their own thing going on, and that's great. But in terms of the successor to the movement, I just think we don't know who they are yet. Real Texan Politics with a member chat says Trump will not be at the UFC tonight. Well, I didn't think that he would be after this, but I was shocked when I saw those reports. It'd be cool if he was, but he's got to do what he's got to do. He's got to do what he's got to do. But yeah, this is just insane what's going on right now. Just reading the chat, people saying Carson is the right guy. Yeah, I think the Carson argument is strengthened. It's strengthened after today. But again, Trump is going to make his decision. I'm not going to make it for him, but he's possibly weighing the options. I think that after today, he probably would be more likely to select somebody like a JD Vance of the people on the list, because he, even though he does have some ties to some like big donors, he's kind of not as well liked by the establishment as people like Burgum and other people. But I don't know. I could speculate all day. One day it's Rubio, one day it's Burgum, one day it's none of them. One day some new name pops up, then a new name falls off. I don't know who he's going to select. It is a different, you have to weigh the options, because yes, this is important, but you also don't want to risk losing and picking someone too polarizing or more polarizing than Trump. So it's up to him. He's going to make that pick, but it is something to consider. It is something to consider. But I think the number one takeaway is he needs to increase security more so than anything else. Increase security. Tyler T says, I always see it as Social Security. Can Secret Service be trusted today to protect him with reports they had info about potential shooter? Maybe hire a PMC or some person. I assume you're talking about some like private security or something. Well, I don't think that Secret Service, which has protected Trump for the last 4 years, decided one day to say, hey, we'll let this happen unless there's some massive cover-up or something, which I don't know about. If facts come out differently, then we could look at it. But I do believe that they did not fully do their job to secure the perimeter, and that is a problem. That is a problem. Whoever was behind the planning of the event did not do their job to secure the perimeter. They didn't, plain and simple. So it is what it is. Either way, we got a long way ahead. 115, I think, days. 115 days before this election. I mean, that is still a long time. It's a long time. Usually I'm not live this early on a Saturday or any day in terms of the time slot, unless there's an election going on. But this is important news. This is important news for sure. So either way, shooter was outside. Well, outside the perimeter, inside the perimeter, the fact that they had a clear vantage point that they could get to Trump is very shocking, and it's a problem. A major problem that you can't just, say, well, what else could they do? I think that there's a lot you could do because it happened and it probably could have been prevented. It's not like somebody parachuted in, and even at that point, that would have been a problem as well. And you'd have to, I don't know what the protocol would be in that instance or something of that nature. But, Trump in Pennsylvania probably increases his odds in Pennsylvania after this event. I'm sure the local media coverage is just absolutely wall-to-wall and will be wall-to-wall for a while. But no, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than politics. You have lives on the line, lives taken. So it's not something that's good. It's a horrible, horrifying thing. Whether his odds go up or not, you still have lives that were lost today, and that's a big problem. So we'll look in chat. We've been going live for an hour. I assume we'll continue to go live for a little bit more. We'll see what people have to say. Request for additional protection turned down. That's kind of a problem, if true. He was some Antifa guy. He very well could have been. You know, sometimes we get reports and then they turn out not to be real or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a major event, a tragic event. Tragic event. It's still hard to articulate a way to comprehend it, because it shocks you. It does. It was shocking. I was like, there's no way, you know, it's like your heart stops. Is he okay? Especially the way I found out about it was I was just editing a video. Somebody replied to one of my tweets, and then I look at the live chat for the rally, which I had paused, and then everyone's like talking about him being shot. I mean, that is insane. And that, in the picture with the bullet, is probably of all the pictures, because you have the picture of him, you have several pictures with his fists up in the air, which are awesome and epic and warrior-esque. This is also a very, very, this is a scary picture, because if that, like I said, if his head turned the other way, he's gone. And that's a major, major, major problem. He was so lucky that he was looking that way, and that it just hit his ear instead of hitting something else. I mean, he would have been gone. He would have been gone. So, yep, that's an act of God right there. I don't know any other way to chalk it up. There's no other way to chalk it up. So, yep. Either way, and it also, another negative from it is it's going to keep people away from his rallies, because who exactly wants to go to a rally where there's a good chance you end up shot, which is not a good thing whatsoever. I'm sure that the security will be amped up. You know, it's just like flying after 9/11. You know, people didn't want to fly as much, but within a few months, the numbers were back to normal. So I assume it would be similar. I assume security is going to be ramped up significantly, but it's not good enough. You got to protect a president, and probably a future president. Currently, he's on vacation for 4 years because some people decided to, you know, do certain things, but that's beside the point. I bet it doesn't keep anyone. I mean, it depends how it's held. If it's held inside, it's possible that, knowing Trump, you could have his biggest arena filled to date, for all we know. Who knows? But it is true that these people need to do their due diligence to make sure that there's no possible way this happening ever again. I don't care where the president is even at that point, just for the sake of the nation, sake of doing their job properly. You know, it's just bad on their part. But let's see. Someone said, you keep going. You don't stop. Going to a rally is now an act of courage. I tend to agree with that. I mean, the fact that I think the biggest saving grace is Trump just holding his hand in the air saying fight. I think that kind of stops any bit of that from happening. But yeah, I mean, everything's going well for Trump. Supreme Court going well for Trump. The debate went well for Trump. The RNC. By the way, the list of speakers, I like the list of speakers. I don't know if there's going to be any surprise speakers, but we do have a lot of the political speakers, and it's just everybody. It's everybody from a lot of different wings of the party. I mean, you have a lot of good people, and you have a mix. You have a mix of people. You have everybody from, if I could, find out, you got a lot of congressmen that are well known and prominent. You have a lot of Trump's political opponents from the primaries, besides people like Mike Pence or Chris Christie, of course. You have, all the VP contenders. That doesn't, and yes, you have people like Vivek that will be speaking as well. I mean, you got a lot of people, so it should be a good event. I'll be streaming every single night after it ends. We'll be doing it after. We'll do the after show. We like doing the after show. Some people say stream during, which again, there's like the copyright and everything like that, but it's definitely it's going to have a different vibe too, because already the vibe was going in was Trump with the momentum. You have the debate, and then you have this, which again is a tragedy, and it's emotional, it's moving, for sure. Mike Oxhart says indoor rallies from now on. Many people in chat are saying that. Porter Todd for 20 says, my friend told me she had a dream where someone would try to take out Trump. Well, some of those worst nightmares have come into reality, but thankfully he ended up surviving. American Nerd 1776 says, Rep, do you think Secret Service should give protection to RFK Jr. given what happened to Trump today and that he's a Kennedy? I don't see why. I mean, do they have to give Secret Service protection to everybody who's running for president? I mean, let's be honest here. Trump has it. He's a major party contender. Should RFK Jr. fit that designation? I mean, it's a lot of money. He can, I guess, hire his own security. It doesn't seem like there's any motivation really against him for that. Him being a Kennedy, his whole family doesn't even like him, which, I mean, is what it is. But I don't know. That's up to the Secret Service. I really don't know if they should be giving him protections, but if they do, they do. I could see why people would say that all candidates should have them, but to what extent does that go? Does the Prohibition Party nominee, who's less relevant than I am by far, deserve Secret Service protection? Do I deserve Secret Service protection as somebody who comments on political matters? Like, obviously, I'd say no to both of those. So, like, I guess the line being drawn is like a question mark, I guess. Maybe if he was polling higher, you'd have more of an argument. But Thu Kang 1994 says that picture of bloody Trump with his defiant look and fist in the air had every hair on my back rising. We're facing pure evil. Trump is my president. Well, we got to go out there and beat the evil. We got to beat the evil. I mean, there's no sitting idle. It feels good that we're winning and everything like that. We've never been in this position before, but I mean, there's no reason to stop and just say, oh, Biden can't win. He can win. He can win. Even if it means resorting to other measures. We see what goes on in the modern political sphere. I'm not even going to say it's all like election shenanigans. It's a lot of different stuff, though. And that's one thing that people focus on, but there's so many other things that may distract from that also matter, too. And it's like, we know that they caused 2020 to go the way they did in a multifaceted manner. That was their final insurance, by the way, and it was barely enough. So let's be honest here. If Biden somehow does manage to lie his way to a second term, there is no reason to respect. There is no reason already to respect his presidency, but he will officially, he will be even more of an illegitimate president than he already is, even if every ballot that was counted happens to be legitimate. 100% of the way. This is a problem. Papa Tango says, should Trump just sit in the basement like Biden in 2020? I mean, this is a very good reason to slow down. Well, I mean, he kind of is being more low-key, and I think it's fine. He goes out there, does all these rallies. Oh, he's talking too much, they say. And then he is more subdued. Oh, he's not talking enough. He's weak. Like, you can't win with the media. You can't win with the critics. You can't win with the TDS sufferers on the right and the left, even the people that claim they're voting for him, but have TDS, which those people do exist. So I have no idea. But either way, I think that he needs to just do what he's doing. And he's been reserved. He's been relatively presidential. Some might say it's because he's, slowing down because of his age. But, I mean, I guess that's just what qualifies for presidential nowadays, if that's the way that people want to analyze it, which I'm not sure if that's the best way to analyze it because he has enough energy. In fact, Trump comes off as like the grandfather now, but not in like he's old and decrepit way like Biden. He comes off as like, he's been around. He's been around the block. He's like the uncle. He's funny. He's more subdued. He's more chill than 2016, but he's witty. He can come off as presidential, but you don't want him to be too boring either. I mean, let's be honest. I think he's doing the right balance to galvanize the crowd, and he's on message. Scott B says, if Dems somehow win with miraculous numbers, will it be fishy enough for even normies to ask questions at this rate? Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, if the polls are really all going to be off by 10 points in certain states, yeah, I think that there's a lot of room for skepticism. Which again, I'm not worried as much because I know that the RNC has already put so much money and resources into election integrity operations that they didn't put in 2020. So it's unlikely that any shenanigans will be able to be conducted at the possible rate that they could have been conducted in years past. Even so, I don't think that they're going to be able to beat him. That's why people get mad at me, because when I look at the 2020 election, I always say, well, Trump fell short in Pennsylvania by 90,000 votes. And then they say, well, what do you mean? But he actually took... And it's like, I get it, but at the end of the day, you have to realize the situation we're in. We have to pretend like 2020 was 100% legitimate so we can analyze what we need to do. So when the wave comes again, which they don't have as much of a mandate to do as much because of COVID, we're going to be able to beat it. And that's the way to look at it. So, Trump, and ultimately speaking, even within 2020, Trump outperformed the polls pretty much everywhere, except for, I think, Georgia and Arizona. But Michigan, Wisconsin, he did. Pennsylvania, not as much, but still, he's up by 5 points there right now. Sir Thinks a Lot says you all need to get to ballot counting stations. Exactly. Be a precinct captain. Make sure you can find a way to get involved. Volunteer. Attila the Pun says, remember to call every leftist thinking this was staged a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, it doesn't work because that's the bottom line. The media has revolved around conspiracy theories for how many years, even when it was typically on the right regarding Bush, the neocon side of things with the weapons of mass destruction's hoax, which was parroted and egged on by the media, CNN. I mean, the establishment, every possible thing is technically a conspiracy theory. In fact, a lot of the conspiracy theories they call conspiracies are true, like with migration. Oh, it's not happening. It's like, but then they'll say, oh, it is happening and it's a good thing. No, it's because the left wants power. It's because the establishment wants workers for a cheaper rate. And we see how it goes. We see exactly what's happening at the border with Biden. You think it's intentional? Or you think it's not intentional? It is intentional. The reason why he didn't do anything about it and hasn't done anything about it, except very vague performative executive orders that haven't done much, it's largely because of the fact that, politically speaking, it's caught up with him come election time. But I think the writing's on the wall in that point anyways. James says, do you think Trump changes his VP pick? I don't know. It might make him more inclined to pick Vance. It might make him more inclined to pick Vance. I don't know. I really am unsure. But he also values loyalty. And believe it or not, he is, and people will get mad at me when I say this, but I'm just saying, do not be surprised if it is Marco Rubio, because him and Trump have become very close friends over the past 4-6 years. He's definitely been a more establishment guy, but if he's not VP, there's a chance he's Secretary of State, and I told you so before it happened. So it depends. Trump is going to probably weigh this into consideration, but he's going to have to make his selection. So that's up to him, not up to me. Anti-Pattern Zeros has just donated to Trump. Well, there you go. Andrew Mortensen says, Trump is out every day for us. November, we must be out there for us and for him now more than ever. We must win this time. Everything's on the line. Exactly. Folks, if we don't win, not only is like the Trump legacy and energy going to dissipate, but we're not going to have a country. We're not. And there's no excuses this time. You could say, well, the left might do their stuff. They did it last time. It was barely enough. And I'm not saying they can't do more, but I'm just saying that if you can't beat this guy, I don't know if we have any hope for this nation. And no, I don't think that any other Republican would do any better against Biden. They probably would do worse, because any Republican that's the nominee is the villain. Remember with DeSantis, they were saying, well, he's actually worse than Trump, or he's more calculated than Trump. And all they're doing about Trump right now is they're trying to say he's like this calculated dictator. it would hit even more for somebody like DeSantis if they were the nominee. And don't even get me started on Haley's checkered past and whatever. That's a big mess. And now she's speaking at the RNC, which honestly is like, okay, unity purposes. If she gets booed, I'll laugh. That was a tweet that I tweeted. I didn't even know the shooting happened. It was like 1 minute after, and people are like, replying. And I was like, wait, what? I thought it was a joke at first, and then I looked at the feed, and it was just like, yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal. The Dragon Report says at this point, if Biden wins, it would be our country choosing to divide by 0. Yeah. The thing is, Biden, you could make a case for why people would have voted for him in 2020 because he stays in the basement and the media censors the scandals. So it's Trump versus himself or Trump versus generic Democrat from the Obama years that people typically liked, and even then barely enough. This time around, Biden has a record, and his record is awful. It is horrendous, and he can't put a sentence together actually. People will clip the gaffe compilations together. That's him every time he opens up his mouth now. So it's not a cheap fake. It's reality. And while he might be able to, take a bunch of Adderall and stammer through a teleprompter speech and randomly just get angry at random times, it doesn't matter. The guy is not well. The American people know he's not well. And I don't know, is he going to even address the nation tonight? Probably not. He's probably still sleeping. He thinks his vice president just got shot, apparently, because Vice President Trump, it's what he called Harris. Vice President Trump. But no, this is serious. A lot of people, I see some people that made jokes about this. It's not a laughing matter in terms of the assassination attempt, because that's what it is. There's no other way to describe it. I know Biden put out a statement. That's not what I'm referencing. But M says Rubio as VP means one less mediocre senator. Well, I would like to see who DeSantis would replace him with before I say that it'd be a decent move. I don't know. I know that Vance is going to be replaced by a rhino if he's the VP and Trump wins. I mean, it depends. Vance, I mean, you could make a case, he's younger. It is what it is. I don't know who he's going to pick. I don't think it's worth debating if we're 2 days out. It's like you're cramming the night before the test. It's like it's not going to change much in reality unless you know absolutely nothing and you're just looking through the list of names and then you pick somebody. But a little bit deeper than that. Godwin Sin sent a super chat. The message has been retracted. So let's see. But like I said, Trump still has to weigh his electoral viability, and he will weigh his electoral viability. There are choices that would be definitely more threatening to the establishment than Trump, but that probably would prevent him from crossing the finish line as well. Now, I'm not talking about a Ben Carson. I'm more talking about people like MTG, or if he decides to put one of his family members on the ticket, which definitely is something that people are like, it's a dynasty. It would lend a lot of credence to Biden's arguments about, he's a dictator, monarchy. I guess that'd be a new argument, whatever, but it doesn't quite matter. Matthew Foxtrot's his thoughts on Elon Musk endorsing Trump. Well, you said apparently. It's not apparently. It's done. Great, actually, and it needed to happen, and it came at the right time. I'd love him to speak at the RNC. Ironically enough, I don't know if we got a full endorsement, but we got a few memes from 50 Cent, who has also been someone who's survived bullet wounds and is also a businessman who pretty clearly supports Trump, but just doesn't say it. There were rumors he would be a surprise speaker at the RNC. I don't know if that's true, but he's voting Republican back in 2004. I think he's been a long-time Republican. He was the one to defend Bush from the Kanye Katrina stuff. But you have a lot of people coming forward, endorsing Trump, rallying behind Trump. I mean, he just gets more street cred, but it is a tragedy. It would be a lot different. And the vibe might be a lot different if you didn't have innocent rally goer that had to lose their life because of it, which is the problem. because we could come in here and we could be like, oh, look, Trump is a badass, and he is a badass, and he did survive it. But there are people who did not survive it, and Trump, there are survivor's guilt there too, as well, I'm sure, to some degree. Maybe he doesn't want to think about that, and that's okay. But Godwin, since Biden already had the press conference, denied that it was an assassination, well, I don't know how you deny it. Like, if he really did that, how does that add up? He could deny involvement, but that's not the argument here. That's not what we're talking about. Mike Oxart says freedom isn't free, should be placed under the picture of Trump fist pumping with the American flag behind him. Yeah, it's not free. But yeah, I mean, that gave a lot of meme fodder, and it definitely is something that will be a picture that's hung in a lot of people's homes for years to come, and museums, hopefully. Gordon Quaid says, sorry, just joined. How can the left realistically spin this? Well, they can't. We'll talk about gun control or something? No, it's not going to help them. It's not. They probably, the best thing they could do is to just come out and say it like it is. And that would help them, but no. They're not doing that. They waited 2-3 hours, and they're being very vague. And they're not saying this is any political violence. Gavin Newsom probably put out the better statement, for political purposes out of anybody, just looking at it objectively. And it would make sense because he's the most sociopathic out of all of them. And I don't think he'd be that electable when the time comes, when the day comes. But yeah, it's like any form of political violence is an assault on our democracy, must be condemned. He said something of that nature, but he tweeted it out almost instantly. He called it out. Some of these people are not calling it out. Can I discuss the new Michigan voting laws and the repercussions? Well, I think they help us if you're talking about the early voting, because now you have, like in Florida, like in Texas, like in North Carolina, an avenue for Republicans to vote early that they'll be comfortable with. And this is what I tell people, either get an absentee ballot. If you know how you're going to vote, try to do it as soon as you can, or at least do it on time. You don't have to do it the first day of early voting, but, do it before Election Day so you don't have an Arizona problem. Make sure you make a plan to vote. Get an absentee ballot. That's fine. If it's mailed out, then if you are worried about the mail-in system, understandable, but then you better bring it to the drop box or the city hall or wherever you're supposed to drop it off on your own. And some people can harvest ballots for family members, and they need to be doing the same thing for that too if they can in that state, depending on what's legal. Jonathan Williams says, this election cycle has had its fun and games. That ended this afternoon. There should be no memes from what happened. The fun ends now. A life was lost. Well, memes, I mean, there's a lot of iconic photographs that were taken that will be used, and it's definitely a tragedy. But in terms of Donald Trump coming out of it alive is a big blessing for sure. But it is true, you did lose a life. It is a tragedy, all things considered. So, like I said, the mood would be a lot different if that life wasn't lost. But thankfully, the shooter's gone. He's been neutralized. So we can rest easy about that. But again, what exactly is the motivation? I mean, it's clearly politically motivated. You're beyond a probable cause even. But still, we have yet to find out the full details. Mr. Jimmy says, what's with libs on Twitter saying it's staged? Well, they're just deranged people. Don't even engage with those people. Block those people. How's it staged? It's staged. They actually think a life was lost and it was staged. Really? Oh, wait, apparently Alex Jones had to lose his life for saying the same thing. That's the funny thing about it. Alex Jones loses everything because he said something was fake 12 years ago. But these people are allowed to run their mouths about it, and then they're getting praise. Again, channel the anger and the energy to the ballot box. It's all about power levels. It's about controlling the narrative at the end of the day, more so than double standards. And we need to be able to take power. And it's not just in government. Trump wins. That's all fine and good. But it's everywhere in life. It's every institution in society we must capture from the left. There's no other way around it. We need people doing things that they're not doing right now, plain and simple. So let's see. Some people are saying Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds wouldn't be a bad choice. It wouldn't be a bad choice. I like Byron, and Trump was teasing him at the rally with Rubio, although not as much, but I don't know if he's going to be chosen, especially because Bob Good likely is going to resign, and then the House is going to be on a nice edge, and I don't really know if that's going to be something that Trump's going to want to do is take somebody from Congress and make them resign. Because if they weren't from Florida, it'd be different. But I'm just saying, because he's not high up on the list, it's different with the Senate because Rubio, I don't even think he has to change his residency until after the election technically, and he does have a lot of ties to Nevada. As for Vance, he'd be replaced after Trump wins. As for some of these other people, like Burgum, he'll be out of the governor's mansion in North Dakota by the time that he enters the VP house or whatever it's called, gets inaugurated. So I don't know. But the people that are saying Vivek, and I understand where they're coming from, I will say that I don't know if Trump really likes him as much as Trump supporters like him. And that might make some people upset, and I don't think Trump dislikes him. I think he just sees him as more of a cabinet head, someone who steals the spotlight away, and that's technically true. And they're very similar personality-wise, and two Trumps on the ticket, well, he is a threat to the establishment in a way, and that's true. I just don't know if Trump wants to go that route because there's other people that could give him some sort of insurance that are not as outwardly, like, I guess you would say, bombastic. And that's the way it goes. So Mike Oxhard says, if you're going to choose a Florida man, Byron is better than Marco. I think Byron's better on policy than Marco, but I think that Trump probably thinks that Marco would help him win, and his campaign advisors are close with him, which is why he stayed in the race this long to be VP. And he is close to Trump. That's, again, not an endorsement of Marco, but as for VP, I don't even know who to pick anymore because this is a problem and a realer problem than I thought it would be. And I'll be the first to say I was wrong. Plain and simple. Sir Thinks a Lot says meme does not mean funny. It means internet post. It means a lot of things. It could just mean like lore in general. This is definitely fits that designation as well. So Cowboys fan 4 for tense. People are saying this was quote unquote staged. People are also saying Biden ordered it. Neither of these things are true, and people need to stop saying it because it's only making all these things worse. Yeah, I mean, we don't know the motives. I don't think that Biden directly ordered it unless there's some bombshell that gets dropped. But do I believe that the shooter was probably, influenced by some of this, because he's probably from what I could tell, if that guy is the guy that was identified, is he probably influenced by, Trump is the evil dictator, Project 2025 type stuff? Yeah, and obviously mental illness is playing a role as well, and that's a problem. That's a major problem. Biden's probably going to try to use this, if he's smart, to say that we need to come together on some gun reform bill or something. But I don't think that Republicans are really going to go along with anything that he's saying. And I don't think that it really I don't think it's a good argument for gun control, as much as some people make it out to be, because again, the average voter, that's independent, there's more people that are pro-gun than not. And it seems like, as we've talked about, this guy used what seemed to be like a regular hunting rifle type of thing. You're not going to really get away with regulating those and winning a lot of states, even states that are not that pro-gun. So Andrew Mortensen says, I don't want to hear people mentioning 1-6 ever again. I agree. They have no right to. This killed more people than 1-6, objectively, and almost took out a president. They like to talk about Mike Pence because some 20 people were outside with some signs that were, edgy and unsavory and whatever. And it's just that's on a whole different level. This is on a whole different level. You had people that were in Nancy Pelosi's office just mainly messing around. They weren't hunting. A lot of people weren't hunting people down, whether you like it or not. Whether you want to say trespassing is or should they be punished? I mean, obviously, if they break the law, they should be punished. Should be a fair punishment, not solitary confinement. And that we know it. As more of these tapes gotten released, more people have been released from prison as a result. And also, Supreme Court seemingly gutted a bunch of cases too regarding this matter. Wagon 067 says that the shooter been identified. We've heard, I heard reports that they had his name, but I don't know if that name is official, because I hear different takes on it, but it does seem like the guy's dead. The guy that I saw in the pictures looked like he's like one of these like Redditor types who probably is being, if I had to make a hypothesis, like just freaked out by a lot of this hysteria and then went crazy. And yeah, if that's the case, Biden and his team and his staff and all these crazy, they do own it. They own it regardless. Biden says that the president owns all the political violence happening under him. Well, apparently, if that's the case, then Biden has to own this. That's his logic. So it's not the violence guy. If it's not the violence guy, then it's not that guy. Then we don't know. But like I said, I haven't been releasing a name because I don't want to release fake, false information before we know. Because some people will do that. It gets some clicks. I don't like doing that. Sir Thanks a Lot says, when will they release the name? I think we didn't do that one yet. But in terms of when will they, I don't know. I have no idea. Riley Moore for 10 says, I will never vote Democrat. I'm voting Republican up and down the ballot. Trump, my third time voting for him from Pennsylvania. This sealed the deal for Trump's win. Well, it's possible. It's possible. It helps. It doesn't hurt him. The Jaded Kriegsman says, thank God he is safe. As much as this is going to ratchet up tensions, they would be tenfold worse if they succeeded. We're at a tipping point. Yeah, God definitely bailed Trump out. That's for sure. Polymarket's got Trump at 70% now. Michigan is now officially in the red column. Pennsylvania 70% for Trump, where the incident took place. Which again, I mean, it's crazy. Just talking about the difference, and this is besides what happened today. But apparently, for those that talk about Biden being replaced, I don't think that this impacts that whatsoever. But you look at Biden, he's at 23% against Trump. Kamala's at 39%. So they're, even if they do replace him, it's not looking to be too good. And there's no way they're going to be able to get around Harris. And there's no way they're even going to be able to really replace Biden, in my opinion. So they're in a big, big load of trouble on the Democrat side. And this just doesn't look good for them, obviously, when they're waiting how many hours before they release their NPC type statements. Man. Jonathan Williams says, speaking of releasing things, all set score when? Well, like I said, I'm not gonna say it, but it's up there. It's very up there. Top 6-7%. Riley Moore says this was a JFK style redaction on Trump. I mean, it didn't work. JFK style would imply that it worked. So fingers crossed, prayers sent. It seems as if this has avoided massive tragedy levels, massive disaster. And they did take him out in time before he could have done severe damage, and it wasn't like a Las Vegas type of ordeal, because, when you have that many people in one little place and you have somebody with a vantage point like that, it's scary, and you got to make sure that you don't have that happen. You have to have proper security for stuff like this. Cowboys fan says Biden came out and basically said he was praying for Trump, and this kind of violence is unacceptable. Honestly, this country needs to come together. Both sides need to stop blaming each other. Well, they need to come together and not blame each other, but the bottom line is that Biden and his staff and his team and their rhetoric surrounding this election have been insanity and deranged. And I don't know the full motive. It likely was politically motivated, but we don't know the full motive. But if they really care about that, they tone it down a little bit. Trump's not going to end the country. He's not going to institute a autocracy, theocracy, whatever term they want to use. As cool as it might sound, and as every right that he would have to do it after today, that's not what he's going to do. It's not what his agenda is. That's not his plans. Now, some of what they claim he's going to do, like mass deportations, and he should, because we have to follow the law in this country. But the left has overplayed their hand, and I think that this very well could be an extension of that, and a very tragic extension of that as well, plain and simple. So do I think that Biden's directly to blame for every action of violence that a supporter of his does? No, and same thing with Trump. But when it comes down to stuff like this is a problem, and it's the president of the United States in the crosshairs, and came this close, not actually, actually this close, isn't even a joke, to losing his life. And that's a problem. So while we do need to come together, I think we need to rally behind Donald Trump and come together and get rid of the fear-mongering, failed lunatics in the White House that have been there for how long? Past 4 years, and have done nothing but run it into the ground. I think it's a problem. So James says, what would have happened if Trump died today? Would have been the nominee. I don't want to think about it, but it would have probably caused a delay of the convention because it's next week, and they would have had to, it would have been a massive fight. Nikki Haley probably would have been like, well, I got the second most votes, and that probably would not have been enough to merit the argument, and I don't know what would have happened. That would have been a massive disaster for the country. I don't even know what the state of affairs would have been at that point. But either way, I'm glad Trump's okay. Prayers go out to Trump and also the victim of the victim/victims of the attack as well, who will not be able to come back from this. Citrus Peppercorn says, is the teleprompter glass thing an attempt by the media to soften the impact of this? I'm not sure what you mean. I've heard that. I've seen it in chat, people talking about the glass. I'm not sure what you mean by teleprompter glass. If somebody in chat could explain it to me, that would be great. Rhina Mocker says, diversity, exclusion, inconvenience. Diversity is too much. Exclusion is of the whites. Inconvenience is for HR, referring to DEI. Well, DEI it's not really the forefront of the stream, but technically you're right. Yeah, we still have nothing. We have nothing about the shooter. We have nothing about any sort of... Okay, there's a picture apparently. I don't know if it's real, but it's too graphic to show on stream. I'm not going to show it. But let's just say if that picture's real, he got what he deserved. Some people say the teleprompter got hit by a bullet and the glass from it took off and went into Trump's ear. No, because the county medical examiner said that the bullet hit Trump. And either way, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't change anything if he was just struck by glass, which I don't know how the impact would hit that way. But either way, it doesn't change anything. We have the bullet. We showed the picture of the bullet. Presumably, unless you want to say this is glass. This is like the bullet moving in real time or something. It's got like it's, the wind coming with it. No, this is just a mess. Citrus Peppercorn corrected that, said the glass for a teleprompter that got shot. Well, is the teleprompter broken? I mean, I'm sure that the glass could have hit, a bullet could have hit the glass, but I don't think that that's what hit Trump because the bullet did hit his ear. And that's unless you want to say that the medical examiner is just full of it, which I highly doubt that he is. Pendoc says, I'm a liberal. Let's stop trashing each other at least for one day and pray for Trump's safety. Well, I agree. We do need to pray for his safety and everyone's safety at these events. Everywhere you have a society gone rogue, and it's a major problem. Got to fix it. Got to fix it. I think the best way of fixing it is by having actual leadership in the White House, but that's not going to be enough to fully fix it. I'm well aware. But let's see. We'll do the last call. We'll be ending the stream in about in a minute or two. Last call for super chats and regular chats as well. Just a very frightening, bone-chilling turn of events. The Jaded Kriegsman is saying we all need to come together. Sounds nice, but it's not that simple. I know people who have cut off friends and family over politics. The country won't heal overnight if we can heal at all. Well, that's the thing. You have people saying this is staged. You have people saying X, Y, and Z. It's a two-way street. This would be a good opportunity for the left to not do that, and some people are not doing it, but a lot of people are doing it, and that's a major problem, and it's not helping the dialogue. Citrus Peppercorn says, I think Axios is reporting that. Well, Axios reports a lot of things. What we do know is that it likely was a bullet because that's what the medical examiner said. So unless Axios knows better, that's different. But, yeah. So I think we're going to end in a minute or so, but it was likely a bullet. I don't know what kind, but this is a disaster. Total disastrous turn of events for this election cycle. Not necessarily in terms of Trump's election odds, but just a tragedy happening 2 days before the RNC. Trump will be doing the RNC speech, I think, on Thursday. VP pick should come on Monday. And we will be streaming every night after the RNC with the after show. So be there every single night. Make sure, before we go, we're going to read the last super chat and all. But make sure you guys do like the stream before you go. Let's get to 2,000 before we leave, or at least get close to it. Let's hit that subscribe button if you're new as well. Rockdog for 20 says, I've been an independent voter my whole life because I've spent 30 years in either the military or fire service. For the first time ever spending money on a campaign. Got a Trump hat, Trump 2024. There you go. Fundraising's doing well for Trump. I'm sure I donated 1,000 to him today. So we're kind of closing in on the personal maximum. I know that if I hit it, they have to refund it or something, which is fine. But I think that either way, I encourage people to do what they can to donate to Donald Trump. His campaign needs it. Can't let him get away with all this stuff, man. You cannot. You can't. Yeah, there's no way he was struck by glass. I agree. Secret Service did not account for everything. I think we need to up security regardless of whatever justification people want to make for that. But either way, that's just it is a tragedy. There's no other way to put it. But we will be ending the show. We've been live for almost 2 hours. Make sure you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, hopefully, and stay safe, because that's apparently something that we have to worry about even more. But anyways, guys, make sure you guys like the stream down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.